Grade referee is Greg McCullum. Benny Elias kicks off. We'll go deep to Craig Coleman. Actually, lets it go over his head. And Souths have touched it there through McCarthy, and it'll be a line dropout. So a very successful kick-off by Benny Elias. And the ball getting plenty of bounce. And you can see the breeze does have an impact. Originally, Coleman seemed to be well under that ball, but it floated well past him. Line dropout, Phil Blake to take it for the Rabbitohs. A lot of controversy about the Rabbitohs, of course, in the last couple of days, and it seems that they're very keen to play a good game of football and show that their minds are on the job. Gary Jack taken just a few metres outside the South's quarter. Elias looking for a runner, picks up Brooks. Brooks in for Paul Sirenen, injured in the test match at Parks during the week. Roach giving it back to Freeman, Freeman to Neil, to Jack. Dummies and goes, but taken by second rowers in Davidson and also the prop in Fennick. Gary McFarlane up to the quarter line. David Boyle over the top with Sean Garlick there. It's Roach. Last tackle as it comes to Elias to put it up. Good kick and a bit of a scuffle by the tackler on Elias. Brasher's got that ball and may well have got the try, but held up, says McCullum. Well, Mario Fennick and Benny Elias having a little bit of an altercation in the background after Elias put the ball up, and Brasher almost getting a try as he gathered that ball, but the South Sydney defence were able to prevent him from grounding it over the line. So the touch judges will be in to have a bit of a chat. And it's simply the old sparring partners, Benny Elias and Mario Fennick, the respective captains. Sean Garlick thought he was involved there. The touch judge traditionally must have thought he wanted the two hookers, whereas Mario's playing prop today. So now they've got that out of their system, probably get down to playing some good hard football. Traditionally good game, Balmain and South. Many great clashes over the years. Coleman feeds the first scrum and South win it. He's held up there by Freeman. Plays it to O'Day. Steve O'Day in from the left wing. Getting attention from Elias, Freeman, and also from Matt Parrish. McCullum thinks that the Balmain player's up too quickly there and wants a good 5 metres. There's plenty of willingness already being shown in this match. Mark Carroll coming in to protect another player on the ground. So Blake going for the grandstand side, finding touch on the western side of the ground. Some 3 minutes to play, no score, as Garlick gives it up to David Boyle. It's taken there by Ed Meds and also Roach, 2 props. Mark Carroll, Australian representative, and certainly a guy got a lot of enjoyment out of that selection. There's Fennick. Hits and spins, gives it back to Coleman, picks up Blake. Blake puts the kick in, and Gary Jack should be able to cover this. Darren Brown chasing, and it's Terry Hill who finally gets him along with Sean Garlick, the hooker. McCullum's returned the compliment on South Sydney, penalising them for being inside the 5. So both sides showing a lot of enthusiasm early on to get up there and be strong in defence. Penalties 1-1. Gary Jack finds touch this time on the eastern side of the ground, around halfway. Benny Elias to take the tap, gives it to Freeman. The run around from O'Brien from the left wing. Taken there again by Sean Garlick and also David Boyle. It's Ed Med straight up through the ruck. Boyle around his legs. And Carroll over the top. Freeman gives it to Neil. On to Brasher for a little chip. And Grant chasing, but it'll beat both Grant and right winger McGarry into touch. Could have been interesting if the ball had stayed in play, because they'd well and truly got through on the South Sydney defence. 2 outside backs of Balmain chasing well. Coleman feeds it. Another win for South Sydney as Day comes in from the blindside wing. He pushes Jack out of the road, but Matt Parrish takes him. Play just outside the South Sydney quarter, about 6 metres out. Davidson playing it for Carroll to take it a few more metres upfield. It's well met there by Brooks particularly, and also Roach. Roach in this tackle now. Coleman at dummy half. Goes to Blake. Puts the kick downtown. South's running against the breeze in the first half, but he finds touch. Some 7 metres short of the Balmain quarter line. So an opportunity for Balmain through Freeman to feed this one. As I mentioned, it's been a very strong breeze for most of the day, and I anticipated it would get stronger as the first grade progressed, but in fact we might have a slight lull in the storm at the moment. A bit more sunshine than we've had for most of the afternoon, and the wind a little calmer at the moment. Gary Jack through the dummy, but it wasn't accepted by Rod Maybon. He takes him down. Blake assists. His run from Matt Parrish. Plays it forward on the quarter. Wasn't properly marked by Terry Hill. It could well have been offside. David Boyle, a hard hit over the top with Fenwick underneath. Benny Elias for the kick. Straight to Maybon, who juggles. Normally a halfback and has been playing very well in reserve grade over recent times through this year and last year. I think that many people in the South camp that think he should be in first grade as a half, but gets his chance at fullback today. Here's McCarthy. About 7 metres short of halfway. Taken by Elias and Roach around the legs. Fenwick trying to burrow under, and he does. Gets through a couple of defenders. Finally taken a few metres inside the Balmain territory. It was Elias around the legs. Carroll beats one. Goes strongly into the ruck. Garlick giving across to Coleman. It could have been fractionally in front of him, actually, and the kick gets in. And scrum to pack about midway between the quarter line and the try line. I think most people in the outer ground would like to be happy that some sunshine has broken through. It was getting very bleak by about 2:30 this afternoon. Another Balmain feed and win, but in fact it becomes a penalty for the outside, really the inside banks of South Sydney, coming up within that 5. So penalties 2-1 in favour of the Tigers. The kick bounces before it goes out, so if South had rallied to get down there in position, they could well have saved that kick. It was well taken though, and quickly taken by Balmain. Through Freeman and Neal to Brasher. Brasher showed it, then comes back inside. Taken there by Boyle and also Hill. This is Edmed going straight ahead. It seems to be the only way he knows to go. Young Balmain forward has made a big impression over the last couple of years. Elias trying to pick up some room from dummy half. McFarlane plays it to Freeman, who cleans it up there for Brooks. Brooks jinks around Hill and gets almost past Hill, but he takes him around the ankles in the end. Boyle over the top. They go the blind side to Gary Jack. Gary Jack going for the corner, slipping almost through the tackle, but taken in the end by Brown over the top, and it was Hill around the legs again. So Hill saving 2 situations there. McNeil on the last tackle, chips it through. Maybon collects, and he's gathered right under the goal mouth. Referee allows plays on, but he, even though he played on, Maybon can't get out. It was Brasher and Benny Elias who managed to keep him there. Balmain, of course, coming into this match after a big win against the Gold Coast at the Gold Coast last week by 46 points to 2. South Sydney put in one of their better performances in a while last week, going down to Manly, ultimately 26-20, but being 20 all at one stage. McFarlane plays it on the quarter. Here's O'Brien. O'Brien met by Boyle over the top with some help from Fenwick. Freeman. Freeman again. And it's an intercept by Blake, who was well and truly inside the 5, and the referee McCullum obviously allowing play on for the advantage initially. It didn't come to Balmain, so the penalty goes their way now. A very handy position inside the quarter, about 20 metres out and just slightly to the right of the uprights. Timmy Brasher will take the kick. As far as positions on the table, Balmain, of course, everything to play for. Prior to this competition round, they were on 18 points, just 2 points behind the lead. And of course, first and second in Canberra and Brisbane playing at the same time as this match is on. And a lot of teams breathing over the shoulder of the Balmain Tigers. South, of course, only on 4 points. And their main objective, I think, is to show their supporters that they can concentrate on football despite the other media drama, and also get away from the bottom position of the Gold Coast enjoys at the moment with only 2 points. The Tim Brasher, handy kick, should be able to put it over for first points for Balmain. He does so. Balmain 2 after 10 minutes of play, and South Sydney 0. The breeze is stiffening again. running from left to right on your screen, off the water, straight down the ground at Leichhardt. North-south direction. So as mentioned earlier, South's objective will be to stay pretty close as far as the scores go at half-time and to exploit the breeze in the second half. Conversely, first half, Balmain want as many points as possible. Parrish gives it up to O'Brien. O'Brien gets about 20 metres out from his own line. Elias giving it to Matt Parrish once more. Makes another metre or so. Elias to Roach. Roach taken over the top by Hill with David Boyle around the legs. Also Fennick in the defence. Back to Gary Jack to try and clear. Good chasing by Coleman. Puts him under pressure, but he gets the ball to McNeil for the clearing kick. It goes into open territory for Maybon to come across and clear it. Several of the Balmain players, of course, had started on the downtown before it was kicked. Maybon does well to make a few metres there up the sideline before being taken around the legs by O'Brien, with Brasher helping. Here's Darren Brown, second rower, turned centre for today to fill in for the injured Graham Lyons, the State of Origin player. Mark Carroll, taken by McFarlane. 9 metres short of the halfway mark. Les Davidson. And that was ultimately Brooks around the legs. Not a very good play, the ball by Davidson, but the penalty goes South's way for the Balmain markers standing side by side instead of behind each other. So that evens up the penalties to 2-2 in the match. So a fairly good kick there against the breeze to bring play up to the Balmain quarter, and Steve O'Day coming towards centre field there. It's Benny Elias who took him. Crisscrossed at the ruck for Boyle to try and get some more meterage, but Elias cuts him off. Garlick back to blind to Fennick. They do a reverse with Coleman. Another reverse to Blake, who dropped it and left it there for Elias. Fennick over the top very vigorously. And Les Davidson protecting Fennick's back from a couple of Balmain players. Blocker Roach having quite a bit to say to Davidson, but I don't think a keenness to go on with Les Davidson. Davidson, one of the best fighters, shall we say, in the business. But anyway, here's Mario Fennick being 10 minutes in the sin bin. 10 minutes in the sin bin for the South skipper. It's become one of the legendary feuds of rugby league, of course, Benny Elias and Mario Fennick and their rivalry. And it's going to disadvantage the Rabbitohs with Balmain having this breeze and then the extra man for the next 10 minutes. Benny Elias from that penalty. Here's McGarry. Taken by both the second rowers, but he spins away from them. And it really needs an effort by McCarroll to come back. Edmund taking it up to within 5 metres of the South Sydney line. Elias goes the open side. McFarlane overruns it. It's through Neil now after being with Freeman. And he's taken about 10 metres out. It was Coleman making the tackle. A dummy there from Brooks, and he goes from dummy half, makes a couple of metres. Benny Elias now dummy half. Back to Freeman. Longer ball out for Matt Parrish. Parrish across to Brasher. He's got the overlap from McGarry, and he'll stroll in. Goes in for the try up wide, using the extra man. Quick hands from way across on the left side of the field, and the overlap for Damien McGarry to go in and score the try. Well, that's the penalty of letting personalities come into it. Fennick getting into trouble for an obviously cheap shot on Benny Elias. 10 minutes in the sin bin, and now South have paid that penalty with Balmain working to one side of the field, localising the South Sydney defence and exploiting the overlap with their extra man out wide. McGarry just strolling across in the end to post that try. So it's a kick from wide out for Tim Brasher, but if he saw any of the reserve grade game, Charlie Saab managed to put several over from a similar position, really exploiting the breeze that Brasher's got to work with now. He's allowed perhaps too much for the breeze to take it across the goalmouth, but that's a scoreline of 6-0. Tigers leading after 15 minutes by 6 points to 0. So Balmain off to a reasonable start in this first half. They'll be looking, as I said, for more points to give them a safe buffer for that second half against the wind. McCarthy to line up to kick off for Souths. Comes down towards the Balmain try line. Grant let it bounce. He gave it to Jack. Jack brings it back to centre field and some 17 or 18 metres out. Elias dummying. Boyle grabs him. He gets the ball away though, despite the attention of Boyle, and then Carroll went through Freeman. Out to McGarry, the try scorer. He gives it back to Freeman. Well done. Freeman's got plenty of space. Got Mabon in front of him. He gives the chip kick to get around Mabon, and he may well gather this. The ball's going to be in a good position for him, and he will score. Great try by the Kiwi halfback. Good work by McGarry, the winger, too, to keep it alive so that Freeman could wrap around and collect that ball back. And then he got into the open spaces, and then the chip kick over Mabon and the chase was ideal. Great piece of individual work in the end by Freeman, but well set up by Elias getting that ball away from dummy half, and of course McGarry from being able to unload when he was collared out wide. Well, here's a situation where Tim Brasher just a couple of minutes before was having a kick at goal. He should, from that rehearsal from the conversion of McGarry's try, have a better idea to hopefully, from Balmain's point of view, convert Freeman's try. Well, Balmain have sussed it in one with Fennick off the field. They're working wider and taking advantage of the man short on the South Sydney side while he's in the sin bin. Brasher moving into it. It's a little straighter this time, but he's still perhaps giving it too much to the left, relying on that breeze, which isn't as strong as it has been earlier in the day. So back for another McCarthy kickoff. 22 minutes remaining in the first half, and a 10-0 advantage for Balmain. McCarthy kicks it downtown to Jack. Sits it up for Freeman, who waits for the runner. McGarry comes around him to come up in the centre of the field, about 12 metres out from the Balmain line. This is Brooks getting his first great opportunity, replacing Sirinen today, taken by Coleman. Elias goes blindside to Roach, makes more metres before Carroll absolutely launched himself at him with Boyle around the legs. Blake and Co again, I think, inside that 5 and leaving a gate. If Brasher could have held that, there was a big gap for the outside backs of Balmain to exploit once more. It's the danger with getting up too fast. If the player coming up is too quick, there's the gate there for the attack to come in behind. Brasher could see it, but unfortunately in his excitement he couldn't hold that ball. Benny Elias can't quite get down in the scrum, and the referee not happy with the way Balmain has gone about packing that scrum, so the penalty going to South Sydney. Penalties are 3-all, but this is a differential, of course. The Rabbitohs can't go for goal. Carroll takes the tap, goes straight ahead. Ball taken by Brooks. Garlick dummies to Boyle, who goes straight through to Roach, but it's Garlick who goes and makes a metre or two from dummy half before Elias got him. Carroll giving it to Coleman across to Blake. Blake looks for the runner inside, and it's Darren Brown, who comes a long way in field before straightening, and finally taken by Elias and Roach. Garlick goes himself really when there weren't any runners. There seemed to be disorganisation there at the ruck for Souths. Brown now gives it to Boyle, flips it on to Carroll. Couldn't get his arms free. Good defence from the Tigers. Edmed there particularly. It's the last tackle. Blake spinning it very wide. And Maven does well to hold that. There's a chance for him if he can keep going. And he goes well himself, Steve Maven. Gets in. Didn't need to use the winger. And in fact, it's not a try, as McCullum has ruled that he didn't ground it. Several South Sydney players looked a little bit stunned about that. Well, that was the last tackle, so a changeover being required here, as O'Brien tries to clear it for Balmain. Well, there's a lot of jubilation from the near South Sydney players there. They felt that Maven got in. But play goes on. This is Matt Parrish, nearly at the quarter. Boyle and Carroll in that. Sorry, Boyle and Davidson. This is McFarlane now at the quarter line. Yes, there's a lot of people in the South area that find it difficult to pick the two blokes, Carroll and Davidson. Very similar builds and general appearance. Blocker Roach was the subject of a big hit there, perhaps a bit behind the play according to the Balmain crowd, and David Boyle got a caution on the run. Boyle in the tackle again on Edmed, and he's midway between the quarter and the halfway. It's the last tackle, but a penalty for Davidson, keeping him down, pushing him down again, and not allowing him to play that ball quickly. Not to the satisfaction of the referee at all, who obviously feels that Davidson's had something to say about it. So he's got 5 minutes for that. Obviously he wasn't content to listen to the ref. He had some more to say. So Les Davidson finds himself in the sin bin for 5 minutes. McNeil going away from the quick tap. It's about time for Fennick to come back. He'll probably pass Davidson in the tunnel. Boyle trying to wrestle the player down. There's Grant, I think. It's getting a bit willing as McFarlane taken that time just inside South's territory. Freeman now across to Roach. Stands and unloads inside to Elias, who pivots back to Brooks. Got plenty of support. Brooks going to the right hand side of the field. Brasher confronted by David Boyle, who's been getting through a mountain of defence and had to work overtime with only the 12 men. Elias down the blind side. He gets under Carroll's tackle. Ducked at a very appropriate time there. But again, it's Boyle along with O'Day to clean up. And Elias will play it on the last tackle. It's Freeman to McNeil, who does a chip and chase, but a bit too deep. Mabon is able to take it, but he can't get away from McNeil, one of the best chasers in the game. There's Maven at dummy half, and he gets away from one in Elias, but finally taken by McFarlane and Roach. Mabon, a few more metres, some 13 metres now out. Garlick gives a blindside to Coleman, and Day can't handle it. So the knock-on will be played, and South's a bit lucky that Balmain couldn't either put that on the toe or pick it up to scoot in for more points there. Very dangerous situation. A scrum feed for Freeman. Balmain won it. Neil gave it on to Jack, who can stand in the tackle. Couldn't be put to ground by Blake, and picked up another runner as Mario Fennick comes back on the field. Freeman gives it to McNeil. McNeil back inside to Grant. James Grant held up there by 2 or 3 Rabbitohs, including Boyle again in the tackle, along with Mark Carroll. And here's Edmed almost through, trying to keep the arms free, but couldn't pick up anybody on the inside. Had a good look. Benny Elias scheming from dummy half. He's picked up Blocker Roach, and he's well tackled. McCullum ruled that the pass was slightly forward, so they're going to pack a scrum only about 8 metres out from the South Sydney posts. Coleman defeated. So it's not an easy game for referee McCullum. Plenty of feeling in it, plenty of physical contact, and he'll need to be right on top of the situation. The Souths come away with the ball. Mabon coming in from fullback position, taking the ball well, making good yardage. It's with Fennick. Fennick's got some work to do after being off the field and seeing 2 tries scored against his side while away. Boyle runs into McFarlane and also Edmed. Garlick giving it to Terry Hill. Can't evade the tackle of Roach. Sean Garlick again with Blake this time putting the kick in. And it's rolling end over end to find touch. Just about 12 metres, 11 metres out from the corner post. So a chance for South to put some pressure back on Balmain. They're still down to 12 men, of course, with Davidson being away. There was a minute or so there where both Fennick and Davidson were off in the sin bin. Freeman feeds it and Balmain win it. They lead the scrums 4-3. Here's McNeil. Tim Brasher. Well taken by Brown. Darren Brown, as the second rower comes centre, has got mobility for the position, but whether he's got the flexibility to keep Grants and Brasher and those quicker outside Balmain backs in check is another thing. Reverse from McFarlane into Gary Jack up to the quarter. Terry Hill, the main defender there. Here's Edmed. Edmed on the last. As Benny Elias, the dummy half, gives it to Freeman and McNeil. Quick hands through Brasher. On to Grant. He's got plenty of toe. He picks up McGarry. Steve O'Day gets him, but the ball came back inside. A better pass would have seen that attack well and truly still alive. Freeman couldn't take it. Blake collects, and O'Day gives it across to Maybon. And Coleman quickly gets it to the right-hand side of the field. South have got a chance now. Terry Hill and Maybon called for it back inside, but whether that was the way to go, time will tell. The pass has gone loose anyway for Brooks to collect. And he's picked up O'Brien. Steve O'Brien goes straight ahead to halfway. So good enterprising play by both sides. Balmain looking very dangerous on the right-hand side. South's collecting and then spreading it to their right-hand side of the field. McNeil now with Benny Elias. Freeman. Matt Parrish. Comes across to Brasher. Brasher putting on the pace. So Day knocked it inside. It'll be 6 again. Grant's got it and an open line to the goal mouth to go in under the post. Was the last tackle. The 6 again signalled actually by referee McCullum after O'Day knocked that ball in the air as it was being interchanged in the Balmain attacking raid, and it created a situation for Grant to really run into clear territory. You can't really blame Steve O'Day for it. He was trying, of course, to do his best to stop the movement, but the way fate would have it, it assisted Balmain greatly. So an enterprising attack by Balmain, rewarded with another try. Grant under the post, a 14-0 scoreline, and the opportunity, of course, for Brasher to make it 16. Some 13 minutes to half-time. Well, that breeze will assist us in the second half, but the way the points are piling up for Balmain, the chase might be too great. South's immediate task is to consolidate their defence and try and get a few points back before that half-time break. Brasher has kicked 1 from 3. In this position, he should finish up with a 50% result. And he does. So Balmain 16, the Rabbitohs 0. Some 12 and a half minutes left to the half-time break. The inevitable scores from other grounds that creates interesting reactions from the crowd, hoping for their favourites, and more than likely hoping other results will be favouring Balmain, being the resident Leichhardt crew. McCarthy has had a bit of practice for these kickoffs so far in this half. It's Gary Jack, but he leaves it actually for Freeman. They finally got the calls there as McGarry comes around to centre it. About 12 metres out. Brasher from dummy half makes it nearly to the quarter. Elias picking up Roach, powering straight ahead, although there wasn't much formation in the ruck there. South players weren't really going to him. As Coleman had to make that tackle on the big fella. This is McFarlane, halfway between quarter and halfway. Freeman chips and chases. It's an open space. He'll get there first, gets it on the toe again. The efforts of Brown put him off balance, although it was ruled play on by the ref. And Maybon cleans up very well to bring it back some 15 or so metres for South. McCarthy from dummy half. 6 metres from halfway. This is Les Davidson back on the ground after the 5 minutes in the sin bin. So South's back to 13 men. Coleman gives it wide to Fennick. He dummies, cut and load, gets pushed back, finally gets it away to Carroll. South losing plenty of ground in front of this very enthusiastic Balmain defence. There's Grant and Brasher, the two centres in the tackle. Blake going across field, puts the kick in. It'll find touch before anybody can collect that. And it does about midway between that halfway and quarter line in Balmain territory. 16-0 the Tigers. 10 minutes to half-time. So another Freeman feed for the Tigers. Balmain come up with it. As the reverse brings Jack right through. He picks up McNeil, the best chaser going around, probably outside of Terry Lamb. Supporting beautifully. Clear run to the line. And McNeil will score under the post. It was so simple from the scrum base. Move worked very well between Freeman and Gary Jack coming in from fullback on the inside. And of course, when he was met by the defence, he just popped it to McNeil as ever, supporting on his hip, just took the ball, and nobody else was at home. Michael Neal had a great time out at the Gold Coast, scoring 3 tries, and the backing up was of course a feature of those 3 tries at the Gold Coast match. And here he is again today doing what he does best. The irony, of course, I mentioned Terry Lamb, one of the other great support players in rugby league these days. Both of them, of course, were in their early days together at West. If they'd been together as a combination, imagine how many delighted coaches there might have been with them both in the one team over the years. Tim Brasher right in front, chance to make it 22-0. And he does that. So Brasher's figures improved to 3 out of 5. There's 9 minutes to half time. It's 22-0. And really the next 9 minutes are crucial for South. If they're going to have any impact in this match, they've got to pull some points back and really make sure of the defence. There was nobody at home once Gary Jack had drawn the people around that scrum base there. Once the inside backs had gone to him, he just popped it to McNeil, and it was a clear under the line. He went there easing up. That was the wrong one on Freeman. Took Parrish to pick that up and give it to McGarry again. Centre of the field, about 12 metres out, as McFarlane takes it up. McGarry hurt himself in that run actually, so he it's a bit of pain as he goes back to the wing. Reverse at the ruck from Freeman, giving it across to Elias. He picks up McGarry, who doesn't have time to feel sorry for himself. He has to get back in the play. Taken by Blake, but mainly by Hill. Matt Parrish to the quarter. Blake in the tackle with Hill over the top. And David Boyle, as usual, there for the Rabbitohs. Blake chases Benny Elias and cuts him off. Last tackle against the Tigers. Freeman. Long ball for McFarlane, who puts the ball in. Comes down to the quarter line on south side of the field, or into the field for Mabon. Rod Mabon makes another 10 metres or so. Steve Maven at dummy half, gives it to O'Day. Tries to skirt around Freeman. Not really successfully. He swung to the ground. Garlick. Dummy to Hill, but it went to Carroll on the open side. Mark Carroll 10 metres short of halfway. Boyle doesn't go to him, it goes to Davidson. Garlick from dummy half, gives it to Coleman on the blind, puts a kick in to try and find touch, and it's too much. Out on the full. Come back for the scrum just